Welcome to Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, the podcast that gives you an unfiltered behind-the-scenes look at what it's really like being a woman in the middle who's over 50 and following her entrepreneurial dreams. Grab a superhero cape, girlfriend, because you deserve one. I'm your host, Master Certified Life Coach and Midlife Mentor, Suzy Rosenstein, and I am excited to inspire you with interviews that feature all of this midlife amazingness. Let's go. Hey there, welcome back to the show. We have a really exciting interview ahead of us about helping female entrepreneurs with their brands and their voice. Today, you'll be meeting Mallika Malhotra, a woman in the middle entrepreneur who helps clients find their power niche, strengthen their message, and build their brand empire. Welcome to the show, Mallika. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Me too. We've been having a little chit chat before the interview. It turns out we have a lot in common, which is so much fun to find out. I know we're going to have a great conversation all about your midlife entrepreneur story. We're going to be talking about your business, what's going really well, and also what midlife issues might be getting in your way a little bit here and there, might be challenging you in your life or your business, whatever. We love that stuff around here. So let's get started. Tell us a little bit about how old you are, how long you've been an entrepreneur, and what you do in the world. Let's hear it all.
So I just turned 50 last year. So
Happy
I'm entering.
birthday.
Thank you. I'm entering the midlife. I have been an entrepreneur for 20 years, had multiple businesses under my belt, but have been a photographer and strategist probably since 2015 in the branding space. I really started specializing in brand photography in 2015. I actually wrote a book about it. And then as I started doing many clients, I found that the best photos were those that were grounded in the strongest strategy. And I started doing more work with strategy with my clients and working on, the foundation of their business from mission to vision and their values, really the juicy parts of their brand. And I found that I really love that part even more. And of course, there was a pandemic in the middle of that. There was a move for me. So having the photography business started to feel a little bit more challenging in that season. And so I started to shift gears and really go all in doing brand strategy for female entrepreneurs and specializing in defining people's niche for them. So I'm obsessed with niching businesses down. So really helping female entrepreneurs stand out in their industry. Many of us are in saturated markets as a coach, as a strategist, and it's hard to compete. It's hard to stand out. And so what I do is help women really discover and uncover their strengths and their skills and their story and package that in a way that makes them the sought after expert so that they can grow their businesses faster. Their brands are magnetic, they're memorable, and they make a lot of money.
Oh my gosh. Tell me, why is it such a struggle for women to be open to niching down?
Yes. I mean, there's so much resistance. And I think it's because, how can we say no to people that come our way? How can we not offer all of the things, especially as women, we want to solve all the problems, right? So how can we not offer all of the different areas of expertise and different programs and products? But really the reality of that is we do not have the resources, the time, the energy to do all of the things. We are not meant to be a Jane of all trades. We should actually be masters. We actually should be curating our skills, refining our skills, and actually going all in on what we're good at naturally, what we get the best results for, what we actually get paid for, right? Paid well for, and say no to the other things. In the beginning, I think you might have to go through the process of doing a lot of things. You're validating, you're experimenting, you're doing the research, but at some point you plateau. We've all felt that. At some point you hit that wall and you're like, why am I on the verge of burnout? It's because you have like 20 micro businesses that you're doing and you're in this hamster wheel. And one day you're talking about this. The next day you're talking to a different target audience on a different offer. And the next day you're doing something else and you can't sustain it. So I know it's hard to niche and to make the decision to commit to something and actually to go smaller in order to go bigger. But I'm a huge proponent of that strategy because I've seen how it's changed my business and my clients' businesses. You can actually grow faster when you position yourself in a smaller or different marketplace where there's less competition.
Exactly. One of the things that I noticed is really hard when you're not niched is your storytelling. One of the things I love about the podcast is that it helps me mine my own stories to go back into my brain from childhood. In the midlife space, we love nostalgia. We love making jokes about some of the things that we did when we were, kids. I was telling a story the other day about what it was like when we were teenagers around a pool, specifically, the baby oils burning our skin like sun in. I was just going to say sun in. Exactly. Sun in, the teen magazines. I had a transistor radio, was even before boom boxes, Well, that was, I guess, in junior high, I got the transistor radio, but it was very, very different than it is now.
Those were the days. I love those days. I mean, you actually had conversation with each other. You actually talked and you looked at each other instead of looking at your phone or worrying about what you were missing. You actually were present in the moment.
Absolutely. It was so different. But like, even if I dealt with men as well, and I get plenty of requests about working with men, it's not that I don't want to help men, but it's just a completely different story. I wouldn't be talking to them about sun in, about playing jacks, making mud pies, reading 17, all the stuff I did when I was a kid, playing with spirograph. You know how many hours I spent playing with spirograph? It was insane. And I wouldn't have the same stories to tell, it would just be so different. And when you can just relax into your niche and it's so authentic and you feel good about it and you get practiced with remembering stories that help you connect with people, it's just so much easier.
Yeah, it's all about that deeper connection, right? You're increasing your relevance, you increase your resonance when you actually have a targeted message for someone. It's like, I always tell my clients, it's like writing a love letter to the specific person in mind and having a specific expertise that matches their needs and their problems. And so you're able to cut through the noise, stand out, really develop a deeper relationship when you have a niche. And it's liberating that you don't have to say all the things. You're very focused and you can say the same things over and over again to that particular person and have the depth in that relationship.
That's true. Because a lot of times too, entrepreneurs, we've got shiny object syndrome big time.
Oh my gosh.
And so we think, oh, I need to be more creative. I just have already been talking about this so much. But, for us to actually reach people, it takes more than telling that story 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. I mean, it used to be 7 points of contact, but now I think with more social media platforms, more noise, it's actually 13 or 14. You have to say the same thing 13 or 14 times across all of your channels for it to actually resonate, for actually people to pay attention and remember what you're saying. So you have to keep that in mind. So what if you're saying 10 different things because you have 10 different products and programs with 10 different audiences? You're diluting the power of your message. And it's harder for people to remember you and refer you and find you. But if you can get laser focused and develop a niche, match it with your expertise, layer in how you're different from everybody else, pick a solution, a methodology, intellectual property that helps you stand out and differentiate. That's what I call this bullseye brand, this magical bullseye brand. When you have those 4 different layers, and I'll say it again, it is specifying your audience, finding your specialization, figuring out how you stand out, and really committing to a solution, a way, a methodology, a formula that you can do on rinse and repeat. When you have those 4 things, you really create a very distinctive niche, a really memorable brand for yourself.
Oh, that's so good. Now, you're 50. Welcome. And
yes.
welcome to the weird stuff that happens on this side of that number. One of the things I really love about this podcast is really being honest and authentic and having an open conversation about what it's really like to run a business, run your business when you're on this side of 50. And I find that this is kind of like, it reminds me about breastfeeding, where back in the day, there were lots of things you could find about pregnancy, but nobody told me that breastfeeding was actually painful for the first week, that I would think of my child as a barracuda. And it was, I mean, I know not everybody has pain, but for me, the first few days was quite painful. And I just thought, that's so weird. I'm well read. I'm well connected. I'm talking about stuff. How come I didn't know that? And I find that it's kind of the same with menopause and with the kind of disruptions we have in our lives because of all of our priorities that we're trying to really care about and the way that conflicts with running a business. So can you tell me a little bit about how these kinds of challenges are coming up for you?
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree that when you enter this new stage, this midlife stage, not many people are talking about it. And you really have to search for the resources and the communities that are honest and transparent about it. I have three sons. One is in college, one is on his way to college, one is a teenager, turning 14. I have parents that are aging, right? And they live in New York. I live in Maine. So like having that worry and that fear of, that midnight call if something happens or not being around to help them. So you have a lot of stress that goes on. Are your teenage children, thriving, especially with boys who don't talk to you all the time? Are they going to do okay? Are they going to be able to launch out of the nest? And how will I feel when they launch out of the nest? How's that going to change the dynamic of the family, the relationships, that dynamic between me and my husband now that there's less children in the house, right? And then, taking care of your parents and watching them age is hard. And it's a gift to be able to be with them, but it's heartbreaking as well, because that the time is limited. That my parents are in their mid to late 70s, and I'm trying very hard to see them as often as I can. And when it comes to business, I've changed my business model recently so that I can create more time and white space to be with my loved ones. 2022, I had been doing all the things. I had a membership. I was doing masterminds. I had digital products. I was doing intensives. And it was a great, profitable year, but I was at capacity. And as I have two children going into college and parents that are aging, I just thought I need to simplify and streamline so that I can create more time that I can get in the car and drive to New York and be there for my parents if they need me. So I cut out many programs, and my clients were like, "Are you crazy? I'm in your membership. I love it." And I just said, I have to model and teach my clients I have to walk the walk. And so if I want a business that it fits my lifestyle and meets the goals that I have, the values that I have to make changes. And so I decided to go all in on just one offering. It's a mastermind. And I launch it twice a year. I do January and September. It's 4 months. I have it at a higher price point so that I can still meet my revenue goals. It's a little nerve-wracking, but I'm doing it intentionally so that I have more time for those people that I love, my children, my parents, my family. And so that is a change that I really designed by intention at this season of my life.
Well, I'm nodding and smiling over here for a few reasons. First of all, I want to tell you I also have three sons, and and the best way, I was just laughing when you said they don't talk as much. They do not talk as much to us, but the best way I found to have like lengthy conversations with them is to drive them someplace juicy and lock the doors, right? And they're kind of stuck with you.
Stuck with you, yes.
So good. Works like a charm. Anyway, what you're talking about is what I call the midlife operating system. So you figured out how to create a system for you that supports your midlife priorities. And we can't have an operating system the way we did 10 years ago, 20 years ago, because things are different. Things are absolutely different. And the biggest thing that's different is this backdrop of aging and age sensitivity, urgency. We've never been more aware of time passing than we are once we creep into the other side of 50. We creep, we arrive, whatever, but all of a sudden we're here, and it's kind of like it sneaks up on you. But yeah, absolutely. What we've been doing doesn't work anymore if we want the life that we want on purpose. Absolutely. Yeah. And you had to create business changes to support your lifestyle priorities, essentially. So that was great. That was just warming my heart. So when it comes to the kids going into empty nest, so you have an emptying nest right now.
Yes, emptying.
That's what I call it. It's emptying. And I noticed that the sibling dynamics changed so much too. So what's it like for you to have that first kid launched? Not really launched, because I'm sure he's on the payroll, but
Yeah. So he's 21. He's a junior in college. And I have to say, it is amazing to watch them grow into themselves and to take risks and go for jobs and really become these adults that have their own value system and own beliefs. And some of them are very different than mine, but you're seeing them form into who they are. And that is probably one of the biggest gifts. I think, we see that when they're young, they start to walk, they start to talk, but it's totally different at this stage as being in midlife and we're older. And then we have these adult children that are starting to emerge. And it's, again, heartbreaking in some ways because you want to keep them in your pocket. I used to joke, I want to keep you in my pocket, but they are growing up and soon we'll have partners and jobs and lives that kind of exist without you in some ways. And that letting go is very hard. My son has been in the UK for the year. He's studying at Oxford. And so he's out of the country. He's in a different time zone. And so I just don't have as much access to him. Thank goodness for social media because he can text and I could see on Instagram what he's up to and he can see what I'm up to. But it's hard. It's hard to let them go and see that they're adults. And it's so nice when they do come back and they ask for your opinion or they include you. I don't take that lightly. I love that. And I think, you do your best to create this family unit that serves as like an anchor for them. So even if they go far, even if they do these things, they are still grounded in what we've created together as a family. And I think my husband and I, we've tried really hard to share that vision with them so that they're on board. So even if they go to UK or my son is going to Chicago for college, my middle son, they're going far and they're in opposite directions. Everyone's going that hopefully they still feel bonded with the family and it has an anchor where we all still can come together.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing when it happens. So one of the things that we're touching on here a little bit is that, we are aging. Now, of course, we're all aging and we've been aging since the moment we were born. But you mentioned in your notes that sometimes you worry about your age making you irrelevant. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that's certainly, you're not alone in thinking that.
Yeah. So, I'm in the branding sphere. So branding is all about sharing your story, being visible, putting yourself out there, sharing your superpowers and how you're different. And so that takes a lot of face time to be out there. And so as we're aging, as we're getting older, all these new young people are coming into the marketplace, right? And they're savvy with technology and they can create reels in like 2 seconds and they can get themselves out there. And so you start to doubt yourself a little bit. You start to worry that, am I still relevant? Am I a dinosaur in this industry of branding where sometimes the new things are the popular things, right? And I have to often talk to myself about and remind myself of the value that I offer. I have experience, right? As we age, we still gain experience. And I might not be the go-to for the, 30-year-old who's looking to break into branding. But guess what? There are many women 50 over that are looking to build a next level of their brands. And I could be the best fit for them because I can talk to them about putting sun in our hair in the 80s.
That's right.
Right. And, all of my favorite 90s movies and 80s movies and the music, and there will be other points of connection. And so, it's hard as we get older because you feel like you're getting maybe a little phased out, but you still have to work hard to keep yourself relevant, keep yourself learning about the trends and understanding things. Will I be doing TikToks? No, I'm not going to do it. I've chosen not to do it, but I'll be on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. I know where my customers are. So I think it is a fear that I have, but I have to kind of, work on that mindset and talk myself around it and remind myself of the value that I do still offer.
Absolutely. Another thing you mentioned here, which I really want to talk to you about, is this boundary setting. So that you mentioned that you made some big decisions about the way you're going to be moving your business forward with fewer offers and fewer launches. And so how are you going to continue to handle the boundary issue? Because one thing is women, there's so many distractions and there are things coming at us all the time. So I had somebody telling me today that she was just assuming that if she blocked off 2 hours in the morning to do some, concentrated work, she was assuming that it wouldn't happen. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, let's talk about how things actually happen and how many decisions are made to get the result that you're experiencing. So how do you deal with boundaries? And maybe you can talk about something that came up recently where you were actively deciding about how you were going to handle that.
Yeah, I think, we have the boundaries, there's the shiny object syndrome, all of that stuff, the distractions. I think what helps me is I have a very clear vision. I have very concrete goals that I set for myself month to month. And this acts as a guide for me to know what I need to get done. And if I get off path, I go back to the vision of what I'm trying to accomplish. I think when people feel like very scattered and schizophrenic and they're doing different things, it's because they haven't done the work on the mission of their business. Why are you doing this? And where do I see myself in 3 years? And what am I trying to accomplish on the month to month basis? You got to get really clear on that. I print out calendars all the time and I have everything, it's not like over the top meticulous and everything is super planned, but there's a guiding, I'm guiding myself in what I want to do. What's the content that I want to talk to every single month? So then that's going to filter into the blog posts that I do and the newsletter I do, and then the social media, so that I feel empowered and informed of the path that I'm taking, instead of like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I have to do this. And then you're all scattered, right? And you're in reactive mode. I used to run my business in reactive mode in the beginning. And I think with maturity, and I don't know, in this new season, being 50, I think we can make decisions faster, and we don't doubt ourselves as much anymore. I can make decisions and I just keep moving forward. And I'm so thankful for that. Instead of like, did I do the right decision? Do I need to talk to 20 people to see if this was the right decision? So, an instance that came up recently is I was invited to join a summit to be on a panel. And it was a business summit, but it didn't really align with my mission or my values, let's just say. It had visibility. I would have had all of the, there's a lot of popular people on that, but they were asking for, you have to share this with your audience multiple times. And I didn't want to exhaust my audience. I didn't want to bombard my audience. It didn't feel good to me. So I had to kind of go back to, what am I trying to accomplish with my business? And is this in alignment with that? Will I still reach my goals if I don't do this? Does this actually match the values that I have? And it didn't. And so I said, thank you, but no, thank you. And it felt really good to make that decision. So I think it's important to do the work on your values and your goals and use that as a guiding force as you get opportunities that come your way.
Absolutely. How portable is your business? Because with your parents being out of town, I'm wondering how you're thinking about what's possible.
Yes, very portable. I mean, all of my mentorship calls are through Zoom, so I can bring my laptop with me as long as there's a Wi-Fi signal. I am good to go. And that is liberating as well. Like I can, if I'm on vacation, because usually my husband's schedule and work dictates the vacation, then I'm able to work if I need to work. That's why we're entrepreneurs, right? We have the freedom and the flexibility. And so, raising my 3 sons, being kind of the stay-at-home mom and doing all the things, but also having a business, I could figure out what I needed to do in the windows of time that I have.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. What would you say is the most surprising thing about being a woman over 50 and an entrepreneur? Has anything surprised you?
I think the depth of relationships at this season of my life, they are not fluffy. They're not superficial. I think when I actually meet other women that are over 50 and we have a connection, it's actually a deep connection. And it's really inspiring. And it actually it gives me some hope. Like I had mentioned to you, like I'm living in Maine and I moved here, and sometimes it's hard to build relationships and friendships. But when I meet people at this season of life, we have common values and goals and their common interests, there's genuinely a strong connection there. And that's really surprising and nice, because sometimes you think that's not going to happen. But if there is a connection, I find that it's a good, strong connection.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah. And I think it is surprising because it's very different than things were. I mean, in the other phase where we were bringing up kids or building our businesses, you've been an entrepreneur for a long time. I worked for somebody or businesses for 27 years, and it was just easier. Those networks seemed more traditional. And it also surprised me that as an entrepreneur, I have more really good friends that have come on at this age than ever before. But what we have in common is being an older entrepreneur. And I didn't see it coming. right? And in the traditional networks and networking that I did in the first 27 years of working, I didn't have the same experience as consistently. So on the one hand, I hear from my clients all the time too, that it's harder to make friends at this point in life. We don't tend to have a lot of friends that we've had for a long term. Sometimes we've outgrown friends. Situations change for a variety of reasons, empty nest, moving, different situations. Also, a lot of times when you're caring for parents, several of my clients have talked about just being out of circulation for a while because it's so all encompassing to deal with that. So on the one hand, it's harder. But on the other hand, there is something about these deep connections with other people who are entrepreneurs and also our age and stage. I've had that same surprise. Really fun. It's a fun surprise.
Yeah. And I would add also, as I'm thinking about it, I think what's also surprising is how collaborative women over 50 are, meaning they are not competitive. They actually want to see you succeed and win, because we're at this stage, right, where I feel like you're not fighting for things and it's like survival mode. You're actually on the other end, and we have respect for each other. Yeah. And we are rooting and cheering for each other. And so I found that the women in this over 50 stage, like they're opening up their networks and making introductions, and they're offering to share about my programs with their audiences. It's very collaborative. And I also want to do that because I want to see them win. I want to see them succeed. And I'm not sure I felt like that in my 30s or my 40s. But at this stage, I definitely have this feeling of like, when you win, we all win.
Oh, I totally agree. This is so fun to talk about this. I really agree. Like all of it already, I've been thinking as we're talking, I'm like, oh my God, I have clients that I know would really enjoy your work, that could really benefit from your work. Like it was so obvious, and it was my natural way to think about it.
Yeah.
So good. All right. So the other question I wanted to ask you was about anything that you're doing on purpose to kind of help your day, your every day. How are you managing yourself so that you can really show up the way you want to show up on a daily basis?
Yeah. So I've actually made some changes in my morning ritual, let's say, especially during the pandemic. I think a lot of us made some changes, but I've always been this energizing, funny, wake up, coffee, run out the door, all the things, and just kind of craziness. And in the last year or two, I started, maybe it's Maine, I don't know, but I've started to slow down. I have a morning meditation that I do. It's like 5 or 10 minutes. I'm still very energized, but I'm able to sit and ground myself for 5 or 10 minutes. And that morning meditation has been a game changer for me. It helps me just feel so much better and at peace and grounded. And then I have started writing in a gratitude journal. Very easy. Everything, it's not like open journal. It's like there's some prompts. I just fill it in. But the meditation with the gratitude journal, that slowing down and reflection, I think has really helped me be a better parent, a better wife, a better friend, a better business owner, because I'm giving myself that extra time in the morning. I also have started to really commit to a fitness schedule. So it's not like, once in a while. It's actually very, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, trying to do a fitness schedule at home, working on weights, because I know women our age, we need to have that strength training. It's really important. And I don't take it lightly. I feel like I've seen a lot of women in my family, older women, and they've had some, illnesses and weight gain or just other diabetes. And I really, when you have 3 boys and you have to keep up with them, I have to be healthy. It's a non-negotiable. So that's another thing that I've really made priority is exercise and fitness and movement.
And is that really different than what was going on 5 years ago?
Yes, because I think 5 years ago it was sporadic. It was more, and it was driven by like, I want to wear this new pair of jeans, right? And now it's, I want to be healthy so that I can live a vibrant and fun lifestyle, and I can be as energized with my kids and for myself. And I know that as I'm aging, things are going to change. I already feel it. My body is changing. There's brain fog. There's all those things. And so it feels even more important to make sure that I stick to a fitness regimen for myself.
Yeah, you don't want to fall and break a hip. You don't want to.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh. One of the worst stories I heard, and it's not like, well, it's something that could happen, but just being really conscious of the strength training and mobility. You hear stories that sometimes you get stuck and you have to be rescued from the toilet.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I heard this story where somebody had some problems and she couldn't get off the toilet. She had to call the firefighters. Can you imagine?
No.
That's the worst. So I'm going to be doing squats and like anything to help me get off that toilet. Oh, when I heard that, I was just like, oh my God.
Oh my God. That's the craziest story, Suzy.
I don't want
I've
that
ever
to happen. I don't want that to happen. So that should be very motivating for all of us. So what is just one really important message that you want to make sure that we got for your interview? Is it about self-care or the way you've changed your business model? What to you, now that we've been talking and you really get the flavor of this message, what's the most important thing?
Yeah, I think I would say that, when you're an entrepreneur and you're in midlife and you're in your 50s or 60s, and sometimes you might start doubting yourself, again, feeling like a dinosaur, really to dig in deep and do that discovery of all of that expertise, the skill, the strengths, the experience that you've had, and standing in that power, that is going to separate you from the rest. And that value that you offer to people is impactful. It's huge. And you have to remind yourself that, right? We all have gifts and it's all within us. It's just a matter of mining through that and packaging it in a way that is still relevant to your audience, that still solves a problem that your audience has. And so to do that work, to really help you create that brand that people want to work with, that you're not fighting and chasing clients. We don't have time for that now at this stage of life.
So true.
Stand in that power of what you have, because we all have it. When we're at this stage, we have had plenty of professional and personal experience. We can write books about it. And so it's just a matter of mining it, packaging it in a way that you are still resonating with your audience and showing them that you are the guide that they need to solve their problems.
So good. How can people best get in touch with you?
Yes, I would love to connect with you. Find me on Instagram. If you are on Instagram, my handle is @MallikaMalhotra.co, or visit my website. All of my programs and a lot of freebies, all about brand building is there. And that is MallikaMalhotra.co. And I know it's a handful, my name, but hopefully in the notes, you'll be able to see it with a quick link. But
you want to spell it? Just spell it just for now. And I will, of course, put it there.
Sure, of course. It's MallikaMalhotra.co. That's where you'll find everything you need to know about me and my offerings and how I can help you build a brand.
Amazing. Mallika, thank you so much. This was a really fun call. And just thanks so much for taking the time of your day for sharing all of this. I really appreciate how you've personally taken action to take care of yourself better as an entrepreneur in midlife. Like, you've really been intentional and specific based on your values. I love hearing that. I really love what you're doing. I think the niche message is so important for us, even though it can feel scary. I believe too that it's just so much easier to identify with the people who are looking for you. So that is it for now. If you're listening and loving what you hear, please like and subscribe. Reviews are great too and much appreciated. And if you're a woman in the middle who's over 50 and an entrepreneur and would like to also come on the show, please go to www.midlifeinterviews.com and fill out an application. We'd love to have you on to share your story. Thanks so much for listening. It is never too late for you to put yourself on your agenda. I'm Suzy Rosenstein, and I'll talk to you soon. Now, real quick before we say goodbye, if you are connecting with this show, I'd love to invite you to a happiness breakthrough coaching session. It's my laser-focused coaching call that will help you get clear about what's getting in your way as a woman in the middle entrepreneur and confident about your next steps to more happiness in your next chapter. Head over to www.nextchapterbreakthrough.com. Talk to you soon.